All right, we've got one more skill in this refresher set, and that is using the quadratic formula. Now, I'm sure you've probably learned the quadratic formula at some point in your academic career. Um, so I went through the formulation of the quadratic formula, starting with the general quadratic ax squared plus bx plus c. And the formulation is all based on completing the square. So all I've done here is basically completed the square, but instead of having actual numbers for coefficients, we've just got a, b, and c. All right. But you don't have to really worry about that. I think it's interesting how where the quadratic formula comes from. I think that's beautiful, but you can just use the result here. And you've probably had to memorize this at some point in your career. So memorize this, and then you'll be able to solve any quadratic that comes your way that has a solution. Now, some quadratics don't have a solution, or they don't have a, yeah, some quadratic equations don't have a solution, but but this is the formula. The trouble, you'll know if a quadratic doesn't have a solution because you're trying to take a square root of a negative number, and you know you can't take a square root of a negative number. So if you run into that situation where the square root part of the formula has a negative in it, then there's no solution. All right. So, but remember that formula. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples, but it's really just a matter of identifying the coefficients of each of the terms in the quadratic and plugging them into the quadratic formula. Now, there is, I don't, there's different ways to remember that formula, and the way I like to remember it is using the Pop Goes the Weasel song, that x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that might help. All right, so let's take a look here. What's going on? Let me see. I don't know why I've got that. All right, let's go ahead and use this formula. So here, a equals 1, right? That's the leading coefficient. A is equal to 1. B is equal to negative 8. And C is equal to 8. All right, so just read those coefficients off of the quadratic and plug them into the formula. So x equals negative b, so negative of a negative 8 is a positive 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 8 squared is a positive 64, right? Negative 8 times negative 8. Minus 4 times a, which is 1, so I'm not going to bother writing it, and times c, which is 8. All over 2 times a, but a is 1, so it's all over 2. All right, so now it's just a matter of doing the arithmetic. So let's see. 64 minus 32 is 32, right? So square root of 32 all over 2. Now we can simplify that. We can simplify that because I can see that 32 is, what is it? It's 4 times 8, which is how we got it, right? So it's 4 times 4 times 2, right? So it's 16 times 2 as well. So I can actually pull the 16 out and make it a 4. All right. So I can write this as 4 times the square root of 2. Right? So if this 4 is the square root of 16, and if I then were to combine square root of 16 plus square root of 2, I get 32, right? So basically I'm just taking, this is 16 times 2, and pulling the 16 out of the square root by taking the square root of it. All right, and then I'm going to divide that all by 2. And then you can see all the terms in the numerator are even, so I could factor a 2 out of the numerator. So I'm going to end up with then, and then cancel with the 2 below. So I'm going to get 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. All right, just simplifying that down. All right, so again, it's just a matter of plugging it into the formula and doing the math, doing the arithmetic. So x equals negative b. B is a negative 3. So I've got 3. That'll be a 3 because negative of negative 3 is 3. And b squared, negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is a negative 1. Okay? All over 2a, which is going to be 4. 4 times 2. All right, now we just got to do the arithmetic. So let's see, we get 9 plus 8, right? So you get a negative times a negative, which is going to be 9 plus 8 is 17. Square root of 17 all over 4. Now this one cannot be simplified anymore. 17 is a prime number. It doesn't have any factors other than 1 times 17. And so that's as simple as we can get. So that's nice. We don't have to do any simplification on that one. All right, so you have a couple of practice problems to do, and I'll meet you in the next video.